Seems I still can't go live on Facebook. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Facebook, but it is what it is. If you are tuning in, however, you see that look on that face right there. We know what that is. We know what that's about. Tonight it's another block drop. So headlines and all that jazz. It's gonna be hopefully a short one. Let's get into it. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to the Leon Block. We are here with another block drop this morning. R. Kelly was found guilty on all counts in sex trafficking trial. Jurors in the federal trial against accused sexual predator and trafficker R. Kelly, a famed R&B singer, found guilty Monday of charges including racketeering based on sexual exploitation of children, kidnapping, forced labor, and sex trafficking. Nearly a dozen survivors and over 30 other witnesses detailed R. Kelly's pattern of sexual and other abuse against dozens of women. I don't know why it does that to me. Excuse me. Nearly a dozen survivors and over 30 other witnesses detailed R. Kelly's pattern of sexual and other abuse against dozens of women and underage girls for nearly 2 decades. It's a landmark verdict for the Me Too movement. So, Aaliyah's music has been released to streaming services, and it's kind of it's essentially filled a void that was greatly needed to be filled for music lovers such as myself. It definitely means the world, you know. Younger listeners are now able to listen to Aaliyah. I'm sure they idolize and understand her already just from like YouTube and stuff, but to actually hear her music in its entirety from beginning to end, the way it's supposed to be, is completely different. Missing artist catalogs leave historical holes that are difficult to fill, but now that Blackground Records, which was the imprint Aaliyah was signed to when she died, has been releasing her full catalog, um, it just feels like, for me, it's a little taste of heaven. I feel like the world is right again. And so there's an article I'll share in comments about. There's a New York Times article, and there's talking about a stream podcast that they did talking about Aaliyah's impact on streaming services now, and how her self-titled third studio album jumped into the top 10 of the charts following being added to streaming services. So that's pretty great. Again, I'm posting links in the comments here. As government shutdown looms, Senate GOP blocks bill to fund government and raise debt ceiling. Senate Republicans voted unanimously Monday to block a House approved bill that would fund the federal government and raise the ceiling on the national debt. The vote came just days before a September 30th deadline to avert a government shutdown. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Republicans' actions were threatening to plunge the U.S. into a recession. He said, our country is staring down the barrel of two totally Republican manufactured disasters, a government shutdown and a first ever default on the national debt. The impacts of both would gravely harm every single American in this country. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has notified Congress that unless it acts before mid October to raise the debt ceiling, the U.S. government will default on all its debts. What I'm hearing is just people pointing fingers at each other. And again, nothing gets done because these ass fucks just want to point fingers at each other. Taliban tightens restrictions on Afghan women's rights. The Taliban appointed chancellor for Kabul University said Monday that all women will be indefinitely barred from attending courses, either as professors or as students. And Afghanistan's first of its kind women's driving school reports business has grounded to a halt since the Taliban takeover in August. Tunisians protest the power grab by the president Syed. Um, they're saying that he's acting like he's the sun that is rising on the country, the general prosecutor, the president, the parliament, the government, like he is everything. Even his authority that revised the constitutional laws, it is like he is saying, I am your God Almighty. That is what it means. No, this must be removed. The Tunisian people deserve better than this. The Biden administration seeks to protect young immigrants after Texas judge voids DACA. Pioneering black filmmaker and artist Melvin Van Peebles dies at 89. Filmmaker Melvin Van Peebles, praised as the godfather of modern black cinema, died in New York last week at the age of 89. Van Peebles is best known for his iconic 1971 film, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, which is credited with launching the blaxploitation movie genre. Van Peebles was also an actor, novelist, playwright, and composer. Myron Dewey, who documented resistance to the Dakota Access Pipeline, was killed in a car accident. Prominent Native American filmmaker, journalist, and professor Myron Dewey died Sunday in a car crash in Nevada. He was 49 years old. Dewey was the founder of the media production company Digital Smoke Signals, which shared live footage from the front lines of the resistance to the Dakota Access Pipeline in Standing Rock. In 2016, Dewey had said, there is an arrest warrant for me stalking the Dakota Access Pipeline security, which these are guys that had no badges, no names, no license plates. So it's a little intimidating when you see these guys looking like Navy SEALs in the back, when you're traveling, when you're documenting. I came as a filmmaker and digital storyteller, and I'm leaving now as an environmental justice filmmaker and journalist. So rest in peace to Myron Dewey and Melvin Van Peebles. You can get a lot of these headlines and articles from Democracy Now!, which is a great news source and trusted news source. Mahmoud Abbas gives Israel 1 year to end occupation. In New York, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas spoke at the UN General Assembly and said Israel had 1 year to pull out from the occupied territories, threatening to withdraw recognition of Israel if it failed to do so. Abbas also said Israel's actions were driving toward a one-state solution. If the Israel occupation authorities continue to entrench the reality of one apartheid state as it is happening today, our Palestinian people and the entire world will not tolerate such a situation. Circumstances on the ground will inevitably impose equal and full political rights for all of the land of historic Palestine within one state. Activists take to the streets for global climate strike. Hundreds of thousands of youth climate activists took to the streets Friday for the annual global climate strike. Protests took place across the globe, demanding radical action from world leaders to fight the climate catastrophe. A young woman named Maria Reyes, a climate justice activist in Mexico, said, "Climate crises are not a thing that will happen in 10 or 15 years. Climate crisis is here. Mexico is one of the most affected countries in Latin America. We have scarcity, we have droughts, we have floods, we have heat waves. We are dying of thirst. We are dying because of heat. And the government is still financing the fossil fuel industry." In Canada, the Conference of Catholic Bishops apologized for the century-long abuse of Indigenous children at government and church-run schools. The move comes after the remains of hundreds of students were found over the summer at the former boarding schools, but the apology falls short of a recommendation by Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which called on Pope Francis to apologize directly for the church's role in Canada's cultural genocide. Workers at Chicago tortilla plant walk out to protest low pay and poor working conditions. And Chicago workers at El Milagro tortilla plant staged a temporary walkout last week to protest low pay, staff shortages, and abusive working conditions, including intimidation and sexual harassment. El Milagro claims that an ongoing tortilla shortage is due to supply chain issues, but organizers say the company has lost staff due to their poor treatment of workers, including their mishandling of the pandemic. Last year, dozens of employees got sick during a COVID outbreak and 5 died. A El Milagro worker, Martin Salas, says, all we're doing is demanding our rights as employees of El Milagro, just as they have rights as employers. We too have rights as workers. I pack 80 tortilla packages per minute. I load a case, put it on a pallet, and come right back, because if I don't keep up this pace, tortillas will fall from the machine and they will blame me. Workers have given El Milagro management until this Wednesday to respond to their demands. Dog Park Karen allegedly tells black couple to stay in your hood, and she gets fired after the video goes viral. A woman reportedly got fired after allegedly telling a black couple to stay in your hood at the dog park. Acclaimed writer and noted Twitter user Frederick Joseph posted a video featuring the confrontation on his account on September 25th. At the dog park in Brooklyn with my fiance, and this white woman was threatening to call the police and told us to stay in our hood because she had our dog confused with another dog who had been barking loudly. So I started recording and she tried to slap the phone out of my hand, he wrote. Joseph began filming after the woman allegedly made the racist comment. The woman gives him and the camera the finger and attempts to slap the phone out of his hand. You just told us to leave the dog park and stay in our hood, he repeats. The woman covers her mouth and says, "Did you just say that to me? Shit." Joseph turns to a man identified as Steve Tracy for confirmation. You were right here watching this entire thing. Did she not just stand here and tell us to stay in our hood? He asks. The person responds, she did. The woman then walks away with her dog. Joseph, who is the person who was filming, said the unnamed woman was upset because she confused his pet with another dog that was loudly barking. I tried to explain, like, I think you have the wrong dog. And then she just starts, like, going completely out of left field, he said. At this point, I'm like, look, what you're doing is deeply, deeply offensive, deeply racist. And I want to get this on camera because I don't want there to be any misconceptions about what took place here. The woman was reportedly terminated from her position with conference software company Bevy. Bevy CEO Derek Anderson made the announcement on Twitter September 26th. He said that they have a zero tolerance discriminatory behavior of any kind. Yesterday, an employee engaged in behavior contrary to our values and has been terminated. We apologize deeply to any involved, he wrote. Okay, now this is what we like to see. This is what we need to have. Employers holding their employees accountable for things such as this. Not everything, but definitely things such as racism, you know. Couple of little tidbits about some things. As you can see there, that's definitely an article you want to check out, a video you want to check out for the interview of. Again, a lot of the articles that I get come from Democracy Now! And they have really great content. They tell you about things that are going on in the world, in the country, that you're not going to find on any other media outlets. So it's definitely one you want to check out. Soon I will be doing a podcast about Kathy Williams, who was a black soldier, a woman, who enlisted in the U.S. Army under the pseudonym William Kathy, and she was the first black woman to enlist and the only documented woman to serve in the United States Army posing as a man during the American Indian Wars. So I want to talk a little bit about her coming up soon. I have an interview on October 9th with Darlene Colon of the Christiana Historical Society, and we will speak a little more about Kathy Williams as well, and speak more about the Christiana resistance, the roles that women played in Civil War and the Christiana resistance. If you have not, check out the podcast episode that I did with Jose Ortiz here on YouTube the other night about adoption between biracial couples and the foster care system, adoption, the struggles, the experiences of it for gay couples and biracial couples. And it was again a very powerful episode. It was a part two, actually. The first episode we did back in December, for those who have been following the Leon Block since its inception. That was one of the first episodes I did. And so it was a pretty powerful part two. So definitely check that out. I don't have any pictures of her, but I find it interesting because, a lot of people talk about Angela Merkel. She served as the which where they call chancellor of Germany, like the president, for 16 years, and she was the first woman. And I guess now they're saying that she probably won't get the votes to be reelected or whatever. But I'm just thoughts right here real quick, because she was the first woman. I kind of equate it to like Obama in a sense, and a country wanting to try something new and say, oh yeah, we've never had that before, let's cherry pick that, and then, well, we've had enough of that, let's do something else now. What are they going to come up with next? Just some quick thoughts, because not that I have issue with Angela Merkel, or I don't even want to go down the road of what I think about Germany in general, but just that tidbit about just a woman being leader of a country and wondering what the citizens really think. I'm gonna look into that. I just find it interesting, and it was something I heard about, and I kind of forgot about it, honestly, and just want to look into it a little more. Another thing I'm gonna get into at some point in the next week or two is a short little tidbit on Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, who is an Afro-Puerto Rican historian who moved to the U.S. and spent his life collecting materials demonstrating the accomplishments of the African diaspora and the scope of Black history. I think it'll be really important to hear about him. Reading about him, his life was very interesting, and he lived during the Harlem Renaissance and was a big part of it. And so, being that it's the time to be talking about Hispanic and Latin American heritage, and being the place that this is for Black and Brown voices, I figured it would be a great time to talk about him. I've known about him, but not much, and I just kind of stumbled upon him a couple days ago, and just been piecing some things together. So at some point, stay tuned for that. If you have not, go ahead and check out Democracy Now!, which has great articles, great content. You can find any and everything about the world, about issues, about what's going on in your hood now. Definitely check them out. Again, if you are watching on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Leon Block channel. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the Facebook page, the Leon Block Independent Media. It's been a good one, y'all. Have a great night. Leon.
block, block.